Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hills FM 90.8, the voice of change. This is the place where we find the voices of people to be heard, to be listened, and to find voices. It's a repeat, but that's how we want you to remember. So this is your RJ, Gugu Haralu. Today, in the first conversation of the day, we have Tongpang.
Hi, Gugu. Nice to be here.
And he is someone who is very close to us, but it's also a time where we felt that we needed to listen to the young voices that we have in our state of Nagaland. And it is the time where we also get the opportunity to hear what kind of work is happening in the grassroots. So Tongpang, welcome to Hills FM. So Tongpang, welcome once again. So our listeners would like to know, what do you do, who you are, and what are you here on this earth for? So tell us.
That's typically one of the hardest questions you're starting off with. Well, I consider myself to be very spiritual, at the same time very rebellious, and I like monkeys, so I call myself spiritual monkey. And what else? I love the nature, I love the forest, I love studying people, working with youth, and that's all part of what I am. And if you see, my background is in social work, and I really wish to do something for the community and people, and especially something in the matter of like peace and really strengthening communities.
So now that you've expressed yourself saying that you are the little monkey, let's do some monkey business in asking you. Well, I looked up at your bio, and it shows that you have done your class 12 in commerce, your bachelor's in BBA, and your master's in social work. So what is this monkey business of jumping from one stream to another stream? And if you could tell us what made you do that, and what are we missing here, Tongpang?
Wow. I didn't mention that I failed class 11 in science.
Okay.
So that's what I mean by spiritual rebellious monkey. So I've been jumping off different trees, different branches, and then finding myself a place where I really fit in. So I thought business section or the commerce section was for me, because that time I wanted to be rich, I wanted to be powerful, I wanted to feel, that I was worth something. But like you mentioned, later on I chose masters in social work because I started seeing a lot of realities around me, a lot of people, a lot of families in my life, and that made me think that it's not just for myself. I wish I could do something for the people around me, and that's how I ended up with the social work tree.
So now that you have shared about, the changing of your subjects, and we are also aware about young people finding it difficult to shift from one stream to another stream, and also on the career guidance. So what is it that perhaps we can learn from you, from hearing from you, that has it helped you in changing perspectives towards life? And if there's anything that you can tell us about in the making of decision, was it hard? Was it easy? Did you have a support system? Tell us, Tongpang.
Let me say this straight. It's very difficult. It's never easy. There are a lot of expectations behind you. There's a lot of truth that you have to face also, because when you say you don't want to continue this, that means you have to accept some truth in your life that you are not able to, cope with it, or you are not liking it. And then saying that when others are expecting something out of you, it's a big task, a big challenge, especially for us in our Naga community. I would say we don't voice up against our elders, And then I don't mean you to voice up, but I just want you to, like, for me, I was being honest to myself, that I wanted to change stream because I feel like I'm understanding myself now. And then I think that's what I want for myself and my community. Yeah.
So, Tongpang, we're also looking at, after listening to you, where you said discovering oneself. So, can you tell us how did you even begin to realize and how did it start?
Um, just a brief, I would say, like, I think it started with my first dream, I would say. When I started to understand what's your goal or what's your dream, that question comes when you were a child. And then I used to say, I want to be a pilot. I want to be in the Indian military service, I want to be an army commando. So those things came up to me first because my family line was from military background. And then we traveled in India, different parts of India. So, but my transition, this change and all development came up because, like, I started understanding more of my personal life, and then more of the people around me. Like, in a sense, like, I started to see where my family is, and then where other communities are, and then how diverse we are. And then, when you see all this, your things change, your goals change, your dreams change. And then once you get to know more things, your potential increases, and you don't want to limit yourself to that particular point. You want to grow. So that's the close I can get to that.
Well, then we also would like to know about our cultural space, whether, how our culture works. Do we actually have such kind of spaces or space, or let's say a platform where we can express ourselves as children, as young adults? And do you think that if it's not there, there's a possibility of creating one?
I feel very uncomfortable, especially with this question sometimes, because I think I get triggered when I speak about this. But that's a good trigger at the moment, because I realized that I had to learn it the hard way. And then many people, young people especially, young and old, have gone through this, that struggle. I think our Naga community, for us, we struggle in having such spaces to discuss about change. We fear change. We are very suspicious of change. Of course, not all change is good, but some changes which you want to express and discuss have to be whole. There should be a space, a dialogue where you can really express those. And then no matter what's the outcome, but there must be a place to express. But we unfortunately don't have it yet, I would say. Yeah.
Dongpang, with so much of experiences and exposures you've had, I think it's about time to also get to hear from you through that journey. If there's any possibility of actually coexisting with different cultures, with different, people from different background, what do you think? I mean, is it possible? And if it is, what does your experience and your grassroots walks reflect? Please tell us.
So coexisting. So I think it can be in different levels. It's like coexisting with different ideas, coexisting with different people in different cultures. As a social worker, we study society and people. So there are different terms used for studying society, culture, and all. So coexisting is not about assimilation or forcefully controlling someone to be something, and then or like containing some potential. I would say for our society, coexisting also means to like really have a dialogue with the younger generation, the new generation, and then of course new generation also communicating and having exchanges with the older generations, because we have a big generational gap. And then I think coexistence is not only about, again, Nagas. Again, as Nagas, we are not alone in the world, and Nagas are not the center of the world or universe. So we are surrounded with different people, different communities, different nations. So I would say, like, coexisting starts with dialogue and free space for sharing ideas, thoughts, and exchanging.
On that note, with the gaps created, or that there is a gap between the older generation and the younger generation, I do believe, and we do believe, that these gaps have happened because of, the generational evolution, right? But Tongpang, do you not think that there are ways and means to actually bridge, and a lot of the communities in the world are actually collaborating and working with the intergenerational issues also? And it is not that it's alien to us with these questions or these issues, but what do you think as a practitioner? And you and I know very well that we are not theorists, but theory is also very important along with practicals. What are the practical ways to actually address this? And this is a real issue. And this is emerging day by day, where the conversation often transfers to not what I think, but what they think. And we don't have that ownership of our own research. So do you think that we can do something about it? What's your opinion on this?
Well, with my limited capacity on understanding, I would not say our communities are not doing very bad or it's missing out anything. I think it's just that um, we are not very, what you call it, we are not yet exposed, or we are not trying to reach out, or perhaps we are too comfortable at what we are at the moment. So our communities are not seeking out any alternate ways or seeking out any new ways. We are just used to what we are, and that's where the problem is coming at the moment with our society, especially our community. On my behalf, I would say, because when we tend to be stagnant, or when tend to be comfortable at one space, uh, you know, running water is the best water, we all say. Even our ancestors would go for a running water than a stagnant pond or something. So even our thoughts and ideas get very stagnant, and then it gets very intertwined, and then now what is right, what is wrong gets very tangled, and there's nothing fresh flowing or nothing going. So I think that's where our challenge is for all of us. May it be women, may it be the community, may it be the church, may it be any institution. I would say the youth also. If we are stagnant and we are just following what is just following for the sake of following it, and then living in our comfort without exiting our, taking a step forward, challenging, then I think we are just a stagnant pond.
Hence, there is a possibility of changing that pattern and bringing a new narrative. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. We are human beings and we are gifted. And as a Christian, I would say, like, God has given us a lot of things, apart from our brain, witty talks, voice, and all the things. We have got everything, actually. And then I think with God's wisdom and everything, the things will go well. I believe so. And then I believe that human beings, we have the capacity to look forward for solutions, and then many people are doing that. For example, is it okay if I mention one of the activities that I do in the community?
Sure, please. I mean, we would love to know.
Yes, for example, I am in my village students union, and then, like, this is me 5 years ago. I might be 25 that time. So what I did was I requested the students union to please allow me to have a team to set up something different for the village community, to have programs for youth. And then that's how community youth leadership program came out. So I was not comfortable with how the students' union, even in the Nagaland state or any community, was going on. It was just following a similar pattern, you know. There would be a, what you call it, a retreat maybe. There would be a community sports week or conference, and then little festives, and then there will be fundraising event, and then that's it. So I'm not saying that's not important. That's very important. But at the same time, we have been doing that for so many years, you know. There's no change, nothing. It's been monotonous, and then many youth don't even know why we are doing it anymore. So to bring that, so what I requested was something like, why don't we have exchange programs from young people from outside of India, outside of Nagaland, or I mean to say outside of our village community, and then bring from people from different tribes, different villages, different states, or different countries to just have an exchange, not to teach one another, but just have an exchange, you know.
True.
So that we can exchange a lot of skills and ideas.
And did it happen?
Oh yes, it did happen, and
Okay, I'm excited. Please
yeah,
tell
it
me.
did
I mean,
happen,
tell
and
us more.
We just finished our second community youth leadership program in our
Okay.
village, and it was wonderful.
I'm sure.
Yes.
So, what is it that what can we know more, if that's okay to ask? What did you think, and what happened? And if you could share some of the feedbacks, you know, young people have received through this exchange.
Well, yes. Let me tell you that first of all, this is just a growing stage or a development program stage, because but the main intent or content about it was just about having young people from rural community meet other young people who are doing something in their communities, you know, something back in their communities, maybe from urban or maybe from other rural communities, and then have some kind of, you know, exchange, a flow of thoughts, flow of ideas, and then that would inspire one another. It's not just the outsiders coming into a small rural place inspiring them, but even the outsiders or resource person coming in, taking away some good things about the rural communities, you know. And then that's how you empower the rural community. It's not about, like, we always talk about in social work also, we make a lot of mistakes. We think that we are educated and we know a lot of policies, we know a lot of programs. So if I was to do like that, then I would have like just call on some professors and director lecturers, and then bring them to village, have 2 hours of kind of workshop where they will speak, and then the villagers will have some food, tea, and then they will say bye bye tata. But here,
A very typical workshops that we normally do. Yeah,
very typical. And then there's nothing wrong to it to some extent, but what I'm trying to do and push and challenge the community of youth community especially, is that we are trying to engage them also. Now we make the youth community, local youth community, also to share something about their village, their community, and their knowledge, the indigenous traditional knowledge, to those coming from outside. And I think that's where the exchange begins, because I don't believe that just because we are living in urban spaces and we are educated in modern schools, we are qualified to teach everyone. Yeah.
So I'm very interested in this. I think twice, in the conversation you have thought about, we're not here to teach. And then again, you're talking about teaching here. So do you think we're not listening enough? Could that be also a problem to our issues that we are facing in all levels? Are we not listening enough? Because we all seem to be talking, but we don't seem to be finding solutions on individual levels and also collectively. So what is it, according to you, Tongpang, that we could do better?
Well, what worked for me, I can share. So, this listening is a very powerful and strong word. And I hope I don't, undervalue it while I'm sharing it. So I found the power of listening very profound and strong, especially when I met this community called Initiatives of Change. So it's an institution which really focuses on training and empowering individuals, to really work and understand their life, work on their life, and work on the things that they want to change in their life. And it really empowers the human being to really see beyond self. And then for me as a Christian, actually I was a very bad Christian. I should have started like that. So
I'm sure the listeners would be introspecting. I think it all goes for all of us, but we hope to hear and learn from you. So
yes. I used to criticize church a lot. Not
okay.
only church, I used to criticize government officers, to the extent to my parents also. Yeah, I had a lot of bitter feelings towards my relatives. Oh my God, there's a long list, when I talk about it.
Okay. Our intention is not to create enemies, but build friendship. But
Yes.
some truth to our change stories.
And I think these genuine talks are the one which is going to help. So that's why I'm trying to reveal a part of my experience and my life.
Thank you,
So
Tongpang.
yeah, in the course I was introduced to this concept of listening, listening to your inner voice, to divine God. So for me as a Christian, that inner voice thoughts came, you have to practice it in a silence, and then like you can pray on it, and then after that you just have to consciously look into yourself, and then ask yourself like, what am I doing? Am I contributing, or am I contributing towards the good, or am I contributing towards bad thing? What is creating the fear in me? And then as a Christian, ask for strength to do what's right. And ultimately, not just me, I know everyone out there also knows what's the right thing to do if you are really silent and then really looking into it. And then that's how it started. I started looking into myself, and then really challenging myself, to correct what I've been doing wrong, or else what I have done wrong, So that's where it starts, I would say. On
And
listening.
And does it make you more uncomfortable as the voice is getting clearer and clearer?
So I think I started off slowly. I was testing waters. I'm very smart Christian, okay? Very smart and cunning and shrewd Christian, I would say.
Okay.
So as a young, very very goal oriented person, our person, I would say, and again our Naga person, I was very focused on what I wanted, and then I was very suspicious of what kind of practice is this, and then it's really touching my Christian values and everything. And now I'm becoming very conscious of myself, and then the values, and there was a big conflict in me, I would say, and it's a big challenge. And I took small steps just to test water, and even to say a sorry was a very difficult task, because in the course of time I had heard some young friends from different communities, non-Nagas, I would say, to be very open, and I totally regret what I did to them. And then at the moment we are some of us have patched up. Of course, some didn't go as planned, but from my side I was more lighter. And at the same time, it's not only about freeing yourself from guilt, it's about clearing all your intentions also now. And I don't see others different from he or her, or like that tribe or that tribe, or he's Indian or he's Chinese or he's so and so Myanmarese, Burmese. So I don't see that anymore. That borders melt. And then I think that's what God wants us to see, I would say that.
So I think this conversation is actually really moving towards the spiritual monkey inside you.
Oh yeah.
Because it surely is leading towards the level of changes that has taken place in your life, and it hasn't happened overnight. It's a process, and it's conversations like this, I believe, that it makes us learn from each other, and to learn it requires us to pause and listen, and to pause and listen it takes a lot from us. And the effort in today's conversation, my dear listeners, is to really, because we say that we want change, but not many wants to be part of that change, right? The other day we were talking about everybody wants to park their car in a shed, and that shed is the tree, but not many participate in planting, right? In the planting part. So I think that's where, I believe the effort is here in today's conversation, where everybody's pointing out the problem, but there's very, very few people who's actually part of the solution making. And in this Heal FM, we are really trying to make that, and hence the motto of the voice of change. So, Tongpang, I can see you murmuring something, so I should give that moment for you to say something.
You didn't have to, speak it out. So yeah, I agree with whatever Gugu says here, and I'm glad to be here. But I would like to add also one more thing, is that many people do speak about change. It's not like people don't speak about change. Many people speak about change, talk about change, and many people are actually aware. In this generation, we cannot say people are not aware of what's the needy. We are aware, but we pretend to be asleep. We pretend to be asleep, and then that's where our danger is. That's where our community has to realize that we cannot pretend to be asleep long, because if we are just pretending and we know it, spiritually also you are already targeted or marked, and then in social level or the earthly level, things will go much worse. And that's what I want to add. Like, people talk about change, but it's very difficult to act on it, and then that's the challenge that we all must take up.
But why do you think it's difficult to act on it?
Well, of course, it's a new thing.
Is change a new thing?
Well, yeah, to be honest, many can debate on it that change is not a new thing. But for example, let me give you a life example. So I am also volunteer for a group called INEB,
What is INEB? Okay.
Network of Engaged Buddhists.
Okay.
So I am a Baptist Christian.
Okay.
So from no angle, there was, and then I think you won't be surprised to know that I'm the first Baptist person to be working with a Buddhist group. So what I mean to say is, people know that we need to open up, we need to be inclusive, but the first ones to take the step, who will be the first one to take the step? And I believe that it's among one of our listeners. We have to be the first one to take steps. And then what I mean to say is, like, I'm not abandoning my faith when I say I'm volunteering with Engaged Buddhist group. To be honest, if you look up into their website, you will understand that they work with a lot of Christians, a lot of Muslims, and they are not just an ordinary Buddhist group. They are engaged Buddhist group. So they want to engage their practices of Buddhism in the real world. And then how lovely is that? And then you know what? I learned a lot from them, I would say. I learned that why don't we have an international network of engaged Baptist Christians? Or let's just say Christians, That would be wonderful. Because I think praying is good. But I think without action...
True.
Yeah. Without action and without challenging ourselves, I think we will be really lacking. Yeah.
So we're moving towards faith in action.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people perhaps by now must be framing their thoughts over, your inputs, and perhaps challenged, perhaps many questions, perhaps some questions may have been answered, more questions on the way, disagreement. But I think that's the whole idea of having a conversation. Tongpang, now that we've really touched upon, your other side of your personal and a little bit of your work, what are your concerns? Or can you just name a concern of yours where you feel that, okay, I have control over this, I can do something about it, and there's one concern that I have no control over, but I am concerned. So we're talking about, that circle of concerns, right? That as an individual, what can I do?
Yeah.
And what is it, where there is a requirement of the collective effort to address. So can you just help us, also let us know what you think as an individual and somebody who is actually working in the grassroots. And I'm sure our listeners, young, old, everybody, would pick up something from here.
I have a lot of personal concerns, my dear friend.
Okay, but we'll just stick to one.
Yes. So concerns, like I said, I have a lot of personal concerns, and then I wish you all well. I think you will have much lesser than mine. So one concern for me is like, I think the faith. I would say faith. Faith is the concern for me. I hope our people don't give up, lose faith, and I have a feeling when I see around our people, our community, our youth, especially my young friends, my own brothers and sisters, I see many of them losing faith. I'm not just talking about religion, okay? I'm talking about faith in our own people, own humankind also, we are losing that our human side of ourselves that God has gifted us. So I don't want our people to lose faith, and then that's a concern that I'm having. And why I'm raising that as number one is because, of course, I can act in a small circle, but together as communities we can all act together as friends. And listeners out there who are really interested in working with young people and communities, I would encourage them. Let's connect, and then let's really focus on young people and our society, to have spaces for listening, spaces for exchange, so that we can uplift our young people, our generations ahead. Yeah.
And that also takes me to a very different angle. A concern, of course, but it is also leading towards the current issue that the state of Nagaland is facing alongside with the rest of the world, and that is with mental health. So do you think mental health has any contribution, or what are the factors that is leading to more mental health issues and the well-being of individuals among the youth, among the elders, among relationships, according to you? We've got a lot of research papers on it, articles on it, but in your observation, in terms of personal and in terms of working with communities, and especially with young people, what's your observation, Tongpang?
I'm not a psychiatrist or
It's okay.
applied what you call physician, but we do have in social work a bit of psychology, and then we try to understand mental illness or disorders to some extent. And then, to be honest, I have a first-hand experience on this mental health issue or the challenge. So let me just straightforward come out that my mother, or my biological mother, also went through like a mental health issue. And then it was like she was having a depression. Of course, she is having depression, and with that, now she's also struggling with what you call is schizophrenia. So depression, as you all know, it really demotivates people, the will to even live. And then schizophrenia is more about, a person now hallucinates or hears voices which actually are not around, but it's in their head. So my mother is also struggling through that. I'm just wishing prayers for her. There's nothing that I can actually do, but what we can do is really accept. I cannot actually do anything about her status at the moment. We cannot blame her, or we cannot blame anyone. Now, blame game will not solve anything. But what we can do, especially I did for my mother, was take care of her, That's the first step, you know. Take action, take care of the person, try to understand the person. They are going through that struggle, their illness, so we must try to understand that. And then we cannot, like, you know, get angry at them or shout at them. And that's my personal experience with my mother, you know. And then when it come about society as a Nagas as a whole, I've been thinking and then hearing about a lot of programs here and there with INEB, or I had an audience with Holiness Dalai Lama, and then there are a lot of other programs in initiatives of change that goes around healing and then listening, you know. And then there are a lot of mental health issues are talked about, you know. They are core part of the topic, you know, talks. And then like and how listening comes very important to us, because that also helps us in really working on our hurts, and then heal, you know, come through that struggle. And then I would say, like, our Naga society, I can say it's going through somewhat PTSD also, post-traumatic stress disorder, for
Yes.
most of the people, I would say.
True. It's generational, actually.
Yes, it's generational. And then if you look into it, hurts and trauma is generational. You cannot get rid of it just like that. It's a contagion, you know. It just goes from one generation to another generation, and it evolves. It's not the same thing. Some fear trauma will evolve into anger, alcoholism, or whatnot. There are a lot of different ways this kind of contagion leads to, you know. It gets very toxified. And then we need to understand our history. That's why that's what I was telling Gugu before our interview, that I really like to look at our past, look at our history, look at our culture. And then from that only, when we understand our past, our culture, our history, then only we started healing, you know. Our individual healing journey starts. Then only we understand, realize that what our society has been through. Then only our eyes open up to, like, how we should go forward with the future. So I would say, like, understanding and then accepting the past is way ahead for us.
Well, Tongpang, firstly, and I'm sure our listeners also extends their empathy and also in solidarity with you, with the struggles your mother is going through. And I think this is a very similar stories with many people, but perhaps we don't share. That's why we don't know. And I think it's a real brave act and courageous of you, and grateful to you for sharing this in the open. Listeners, this was never script. Me and Tongpang, of course, did go through a lot of conversation what to expect in the talk today, but I'm grateful to my friend for sharing this in the open. And I think that this is where healing begins, when we are open about what's real in our lives and being authentic. And that's where seeking help and getting the right help helps in healing, not just the individual, but it enlarges to family, to relatives, to our neighbors, to people that we, you know, live with. And that's where the whole system of collective healing happens, if we are to accept, acknowledge. Yeah. And Tongpang, I mean, there's so much to talk about, but I think we've been able to achieve something today, and I'm sure our listeners have gained through your experience sharing, Tongpang. Are you still nervous? I don't think so. I think you just took over the whole situation. But yes, I must say that we've come to a point, at least, and this is not the end. In fact, this is just the beginning of the conversation, and I'm glad that we were able to do that today, you know. And the community radio is basically, in a very plain slate, it is serving this purpose of reaching out to people and letting their voice be heard. And it's so organic, and the effort is staying organic. You know, it's not a script version, but really coming out from the heart and letting people know that this is where it hurts. But it is also talking about the healing process. You know, some have healed, some are still in that journey, and we're still growing. And we need to create the community of nurturing one another, because that's the only way we can survive together and thrive together as people. And as you've rightly said, Tongpang, about we're not the only one here. And we need to acknowledge people who are next to us. We can't make them invisible and say you don't exist.
Yeah.
And I hope and pray that every effort that we make, and a lot of our friends and people that we don't know who are making silently the effort to build people, to
Yes.
build their village, to build the community, to build their the beliefs, I mean, the conviction in their heart. I think we need to reach out and support. And I hope and pray that today's conversation has helped.
Yeah, I hope so.
If not many, but if there's even one soul that has been touched, and I do believe that it has been, because I've been moved with that. Well, listeners, we've been, Tongpang and me, we've been friends for a while, but this was totally unprepared in bringing him on board.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to take this opportunity to grab him and kidnap him and, put it in the studio and say, let's talk, And I hope and pray that each one of you who have listened and are still listening, find him, his Tongpang,
Yeah.
Kumzuk, and he's someone who's happy, jolly, and willing to make himself available anywhere where it is about building community.
Yep.
And I'm taking all his permission without his permission. Okay, so I'm advertising him here.
That's what good friends do, right? Gugu?
Yes, but Tongpang, is there anything that you wish to say before we sign off? Would you like to express something?
Yeah, thank you. I would love to. Now my nervousness has ended. I would say I was quite nervous because my friend said, "Would you like to speak?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, of course." So this was a very enriching session for myself. It's not about talking and sharing it to the whole audience, I would say, or Gugu. I would say it was more helpful for myself also to really express, have this space to talk really about the challenges, experiences, and then especially how I acted on it, And then I know there are people, like Gugu has said, out there who are working and who are thinking of working, or who are going through the struggle. And then I just wish them luck and pray for all of them. And then, like, hopefully we can meet somewhere, there can be a space somewhere. And then for those people who are new to it also, for example, there are a lot of people who are unaware about such things, such challenges in society. Sometimes they're very unaware due to some circumstances. But when you hear about these things, I would say, let's try to be much kinder to one another.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's listen. Let's try to be kinder. And then let's encourage one another to help, grow and, make our community prosper.
Yes. So it is here on this note. We want to say thank you on behalf of the Hills FM 90.8, Tongpang. And it's been a great pleasure having you here. And this is not the last time. We'll have more conversation perhaps in days to come with our friends around. But thank you so much. Yeah. And see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
So guys, thank you so much for listening in, and we hope to see you in the next conversation that will be up soon. So watch out for Hills FM 90.8. This is your RJ Gugu Haralu signing off. Bye.
One.